talking about my journey with the Qur'an, it's always very, very difficult to kind of encapsulate it in clean language, because I started out with the translation of the meaning of the Qur'an, and it was Yusuf Ali's translation, which is still a sentimental favorite of mine, even if some find it wanting in terms of its accuracy. But the fact that it was written in that old English, and that it was the edition I had, it was the onion paper, the very thin onion paper, written in old English. All of that for me were the markings of authentic scripture. I don't, even though some people say, well, that language is disconnected from our experience, that was the language of scripture because I was familiar with the Bible. So reading that translation, it completely captivated me. And I'm talking about, I would read the Qur'an. I was a junior in high school. I would read the translation of the Qur'an sometimes 7, 8 hours at a time. I just could not put it down. Now, don't do this. Read the Qur'an. You should read the Qur'an, often. But I used to turn on music. Astaghfirullah. I didn't know any better. And this mixing of the sacred and the profane is particularly dangerous. I used to turn on jazz music because my grandfather was a huge jazz collector. And I would cut on Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Sonny Stitt, Sonny Rollins, and I would just read the Qur'an, No, I kid you not, in my room. And I remember, as Sheikh Abdullah was saying, I was there at the back of the masjid, I would look at the right margin, looking at all of these squiggly lines and these dots. And for me, the Arabic text of the Qur'an just represented authenticity. I had no idea how to read it. I didn't know if you read it from left to right, right to left. I just said, wow, you have the original text here next to the English. And there was no equivalent in the gospel, right? There was no equivalent. So just seeing that, I became very intrigued by that. And I said, I'd like to learn how to read that. And so somebody told me of a madrasa outside of Chicago, about 45 minutes, called IIE. And I went there to the then rector of that school, and I said, I must learn to read this Qur'an. Even if, I said, I have no money, I'm requesting a scholarship from you. I said, if you let me sleep in the boiler room and just have access to the teachers, and I'll get my own food, I would be more than content with that. He looked at me, he laughed, and he said, no, I'll give you a bed and everything, don't worry about it. And I still remember going into the classroom that first day, and I just saw everybody going like this, right? And me not wanting to appear uninitiated, I just started going like this. I had no idea. And the thing about it, because they were all reading at I went to a Darul Ulum madrasa, and I was a boarding student there for 2 years. And because they were all reading at the same time, it was like cacophonous. It was just voices coming from everywhere. And I was like, how do they concentrate? Everybody reading at the same time. And finally, my teacher said to me, Idra, he said, come here. He said, Pero, he said, read something. And I said, I don't know how to read. He said, then why are you going like this? I said, it seems to be what people do here, And so we started with the qaida. And, I remember being so grateful at just being able to read a letter of the Qur'an. When I read, of course we started with Juz Amma, Surah An-Naba. I felt like I was ascending the clouds. And the students, they were 12, 13. They were looking at me like, dude, it's the first part, man. Dude, But for me, it was like, dude, I can't believe that I'm actually reading the Qur'an, you know, in Arabic. And, you know, I went on from there to, you know, have a relationship with the Qur'an. And it is still one of the things for which I'm most grateful. That through this beautiful religion, I've been able to develop a relationship with the Qur'an.